Hey everybody, wake up. This is Wake Up with Mark Joyner, episode number 70. And today we will discuss the death of popular culture. All right, so is popular culture dying or is it dead? Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet, but it might soon be. So I get asked all the time, Mark, have you seen this latest movie? For example, the one everybody's talking about right now as I shoot this video is Endgame, Avengers Endgame. Well, I thought the last Avengers movie was the last Avengers movie. And then they did the thing at the end, and then, there was a little bit of a cliffhanger there. And now we've got this other movie that's come out, and now this is the top grossing film of all time, as I understand it. I just read, I got a little brief this morning about that. It's pretty amazing. I still haven't seen this movie. I still haven't seen it. And I feel a little bit left out. I feel like I should have seen this because everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's watching it. And now I'm kind of like the odd man out. I haven't seen it. So what's wrong with me? How come I haven't seen this? Well, I'm getting to a point where I don't care anymore about that kind of thing. Okay, so everybody has seen a particular movie. Everybody is listening to a particular album. Everybody's watching a particular show. I don't really care. I honestly don't care. There's literally one show now that I care about a little bit, and it's Game of Thrones, for various reasons. But I'm kind of caring less about that too, and I'll tell you why. I noticed that when I get engaged in these things, when I start to anticipate these things, when I look forward to these things, it really engages my mind. It eats up a lot of mental brain space, if you will, that I could be applying to something useful. So what's the harm? What's the harm in it? Come on, Mark, it's just a little bit of mindless entertainment. Just live a little, right? Relax, come on, have some fun. Well, I think it affects us a lot more deeply than we realize, all right? So first off, is me watching that movie gonna bring me closer to the things that I want? I mean, what's it like when you actually achieve the things that you set out to achieve? Something that very, very few of us do, actually. Most of us just dream about stuff. But when we actually achieve stuff and we get that feeling of satisfaction, it's amazing. We love it. We love it, right? I don't get that feeling when I'm watching stuff with people. I don't care how good the show is. Yeah, I can bond with a person as I'm sitting and watching with them, and that's an interesting, good thing in itself. Maybe there are better alternatives. We'll get to that in a second. But it pales in comparison to the feeling that I get when I have actually accomplished something. And I've noticed that when my brain is focused on the anticipation of a show, where I'm thinking about what's going to happen to Daenerys and Jon, all that stuff, that is time that I could be spending on focusing on something that's going to push me closer to the stuff that I want, which is where the real satisfaction in my life is going to come from. Now, the second thing is, when we watch this stuff, I am convinced that most of it is deliberately designed to brainwash you. Okay, now, some of you are going to reject that notion and you're going to say, oh, that's just some conspiratorial nonsense. I can tell you matter-of-factly that there are people out there who are putting messages in popular culture designed to change the way you think. It's a fact. If you don't believe that that's true, it's a very easily verifiable thing. Okay, this is why we have something in films and in TV shows called product placement, for example. This is one of the basic levels of this. Product placement means a company will pay to have an appearance of their product inside a TV show. Why? Because they know that it's going to reach a mass audience. That mass audience is hypnotized. The mass audience is going to associate it with the characters that they love. Therefore, it is effective advertising. If it weren't effective, people would not be paying for it over and over and over again. But it gets more insidious than that. Deep product placement happens when somebody comes in and they tell you to say something about a particular product or to express a particular opinion. All right, now if you read up about the history of De Beers and the diamond industry, you will know that there were lines placed in movies to convince people that buying a diamond engagement ring for your fiance was the thing to do. We had rings before that, but the diamond engagement ring was an invention of the De Beers people, and they actually paid Hollywood producers to put lines in the movies to convince you that it was a cultural norm. For example, the notion that you should be spending 3 months of your salary on a diamond engagement ring was something they invented. They paid people to put that message inside movies. If you think that's not happening anymore, I don't know what to tell you. You're just basically you're in denial. Okay, it's a fact. It's happening all the time. If you pay close attention, you will see that these things are occurring over and over again. I suspect there's a lot more to it than that. I don't think it's just corporations. I think that intelligence agencies and governments and interest groups are also doing the same thing. Have you ever noticed that there are certain agendas that are popularized in popular culture these days? I'm not going to name any of the agendas or name any of the things that are expressed. Now you might think, well, that's just maybe it's just a symptom of the fact that these are popular ideas, therefore the writers feel inspired to put those popular ideas in there. Well, okay, maybe that's true, but when you see the same ideas being popularized again and again and again in popular culture, and when you see the same ideas expressed again and again and again in late night shows and news broadcasts, it beggars belief to me to consider that this is all spontaneous. Okay, if everybody were out there producing content independently, there would be lots and lots and lots of independent thought. You would see different ideas being expressed. Now, you do see that to a certain extent, but the debate, as far as I'm concerned, is usually very, very narrow. There are certain things that are never questioned in popular culture of all forms, including the news media, including the late night comedy shows, and all of that. There are certain things that are simply never questioned. Ask yourself, which things are never questioned? What are the constants? I'll give you an example. Our foreign policy in the United States has barely changed from president to president to president. It's been more or less the same foreign policy. Our economic system has barely changed from president to president to president. But here we are discussing pussy hats versus MAGA hats. That's our conversation. That's what we're allowed to discuss. That's what the news has you thinking is the main thing. So is popular culture dead? No, it's still alive. It still has a huge, huge hold on us. Now, social media and the disruptive technologies of the ability to mass produce video, to mass distribute content through social media channels, through independent media channels like YouTube and whatnot, that is disrupting that. But what are we seeing? We're starting to see now that certain things are not allowed on those platforms. Why is that? Okay, so while popular culture is dying, it seems that the same forces that want to shape our minds using popular culture are now wanting to shape our minds using these disruptive technologies. So it's altogether possible that while popular culture may eventually be displaced by some kind of massive long tail alternative where most people are watching very, very nicheified content most of the time, and that is happening to a certain extent, it's not dead, clearly, right? When we have a film that has now grossed more, 10 years later than Avatar did, clearly the popular culture machinery is alive and well. It is still quite powerful. It is still quite effective. But I think the real thing that we need to look at is what's underneath all of that. Okay, I think we need to be mindful of the things that we are exposing our minds to. Is the stuff that you're watching, Is it teaching you a value system that you want to believe, that you want your children to believe? Because if you don't believe that value system that's being taught in those shows, I would ask you to consider the notion that your value system may change as a result of watching this stuff. Consider that. Consider that. Also ask, is this stuff supportive of where you're going in your life? Is it making you feel more optimistic about the possibilities of achieving these things? Is it teaching you stuff that's going to make you more likely to achieve these particular objectives? How's it making you feel? What's it making you believe? What's it making you think? I think all of these things are things that most of us don't think about most of the time. We just flip on stuff, we see stuff that's entertaining, and we watch it, and we passively allow it to program us. That's what I think. You might think that I'm overreacting, that I'm placing too much emphasis on this stuff, that the power of media is not as strong as would be indicated by the way I'm talking about it. Okay, and I would tell you that I think you're underestimating the power of media. I think it's probably one of the single most important forces out there, if not the most powerful persuasive force on the planet. It's changing the way you behave, it's changing the way you think, it's changing societal norms, it is changing behavior on a mass scale. What can we do about that? Well, the first thing that you have to do is learn how to protect your mind. Get clear about who you are. Get clear about what your values are. Get clear about what you want. Get clear about the path that you want to take in your life. When you do that, that will protect you against all these outside forces. If you're not clear on those things, those outside forces are going to have their way with you. They are going to push you hither and thither, and you have no idea where you're going to end up. But if you get clear about who you are, if you get clear about what you want, if you get clear about your values, if you get clear about your path, then when things come in to your periphery that are incongruent with that, that are inharmonious with the direction that you're going, you can identify it a little bit more effectively. And you're not going to be perfect at identifying this stuff because a lot of it is very, very subtle. Some of the persuasion that you see on TV is extremely subtle. Sometimes it's just a mere association when you see a sexy person with a particular product or somebody that you admire or that you were trained to, or you have been trained to revere. You see them with a particular product, or you see them exhibiting a particular behavior. You are going to be influenced by that on a very, very subtle level. You're sending a message to your brain that if I want to be like that person, I must consume that product. I must behave the way that person is behaving. And it's not always the case, quite clearly. Because when you see all these hot, sexy people slamming Doritos in their face, I'll tell you they didn't get hot and sexy eating Doritos. You know that, and I know that. But your unconscious mind does not know that when it sees that message. And that is part of the whole package of why it is so hard for you to get over addictions. Because you have millions upon millions of unconscious references that have been implanted into your mind, unbeknownst to you, that are determining your behavior and are determining your beliefs. The only way to undo it is to start becoming conscious of this process and to start paying attention. And I'm sorry, it's going to rub some of the shiny off the stuff that was entertainment to you. It's going to take away some of the magic of the entertainment. But maybe I shouldn't apologize for that, because maybe you passively watching that stuff is not good for you. Maybe it's one of the worst things happening to your mind. Now, if you think that I'm being a little bit excessive in this, then oh, come on, Mark, just eat a little, eat a little of food like that. Eat a little of the junk food, live a little bit, watch a little of that, garbage programming. What I got to tell you is that you are underestimating the power of all of these things. You are deeply underestimating the power of all of them. And I invite you to start paying attention to that Start paying attention to how it's changing you. Start paying attention to how it's changing the people around you. All right, guys, that's it for today. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. You have a beautiful day and pay attention. Wake